When I think about Just Hilarious is transphobia. Just Hilarious is transphobic. That's called a spade. And how, people are rapists, people are sexist, people are homophobic, xenophobic, people are transphobic. And homophobia and transphobia is prevalent in all communities. I won't even go to say that homophobia or transphobia is more prevalent in the Black community. I just think that in general, the society that we live in just does not like, love, appreciate, understand anything that is othered than cisgender, misogynistic, traditionalism, conservatism is all rooted in white ideology. Point blank period, do the research on your own. We are, as Black people, we are tribal people. So we come from spiritual enclaves of culture, of cosmologic belief systems. Trans identity, queer identity is a part of our African ancestry. Look it up. But when we think about Christianity and we think about New World identity, even when we think about systemic structures that are in place for control, it's about having one identity. That's how this society that we live in was structured, so that there is one identity of purity. And that just does not rest at white skin. It also rests at the belief system that man and woman are supposed to be together, that how you are born is what you are, and all these other things, right? And that is the goal. Because the goal, in my opinion, is piety. I think that's the universal goal, is piety. There are people who break out of that fog and out of that box and understand that piety is not required. It never was required. And being pious does not bring you closer to God. And I don't think people want to be closer to God. I think people want to be as close to perfection as possible, and being close to perfection is being as close to whiteness as possible. Even white people who are gay are denounced from their family. White trans people are denounced from their family because it's like, you're white, but you are still tainted because you are not heterosexual. Back to Just Hilarious though. Just Hilarious is a prime example of why it is so very important to immerse ourselves in environments with people that do not look like us. Why is it important to be an ally to the queer community? Why is it important to have friends outside of your race? Why is it important to do study abroad programs? The mind only knows how to push biases and bigotries that it does not understand or that scares it. Me personally, I was born queer. I was born with a queer understanding. I was born with an understanding of all people. I don't judge people. I don't really care to judge people. I remember the first time that I saw a transsexual woman as a kid. I never was like, ew, oh my God, that's a man. I was just like, wow, that's different. The first time I saw a masculine presenting woman, I'm like, wow, that's different. But these things also exist in my family dynamic as well. And even growing up in North Philly, where I'm from, it's not out of the box to see a trans woman walk in the street. It's not. It's not out of a box to see a man with a trans woman. It's not out the box. Like, I think because it's something about trans people, it's something about queer people that is so, how do I want to say it? That is so liberating that it scares people who have severe limitations around themselves. Because to accept queerness, to accept trans identity, to accept non-binary identity, is to accept that there is something about you that is not conventional. There is something about you that is not reminiscent of the people around you. But the gag is, what Quentin Burton say? People be gay, because people do be gay. It's a lot of people living in the closet. It's a lot of people who live their real lives, men and women. It's a lot of people who want to be trans, who are afraid to transition. It's a lot of people who might be non-binary, who are asexual. It's a lot of people who are attracted to things that they don't quite understand. But because of the taboo nature of it, people are afraid to accept it. And I don't know what it is about trans identity that disrupts Just Hilarious so much. Some people have been saying online is because oftentimes she has been compared to trans women. I think personally, as someone who loves the girls, I love the girls, I love the dolls, I love them down. I feel like trans women, and I don't care what nobody thinks, I don't care what nobody say, I don't care about your opinion, this is my opinion. I think trans women have the ability, the space to be the full, complete embodiment of femininity and not have to carry the brunt of what a woman is supposed to do and what a woman is supposed to be. And I think that's why it's so hard for women like Just Hilarious, cisgender women, to understand and to accept trans women, because I think it might be a feeling of a slight. Like, okay, you are appearing as a woman, you identify as a woman, but you don't have the societal expectations that women carry. There's a lot of expectations of being a woman outside of physical presentation. A lot of things that keep us in a box. A lot of things that even question our femininity, different career roles that we want to go into, different ways that we dress or the way that we carry ourselves. There's a lot of things that women are forced not to do or can't do, even down to, like, I feel like hygiene. You know, women are held at such high standard of hygiene, whereas men are not. Women are expected to be shaved and buttered and primped. Your hair can't be messy, it can't be nappy, your edges have to be laid, you have to smell good all the time, you have to be quiet, you have to be thin, you have to be thick, you gotta be this, you gotta be that, you can't be too fat. It's so many stipulations that women have to go through and abide by. In a relationship, you can't leave the house, you gotta do so much. And I think women like Just Hilarious, who have a hard time accepting trans women, are women who have a hard time accepting themselves. Because I feel like woman, man, gender is a social construct. Feminine, masculine, those are social constructs. Those are characteristics. We both embody feminine and masculine energy. And in our gender expression is how we decide how we want to express ourselves. So if I'm a trans person, if my gender expression is woman, if my gender expression is femininity, and if that's how I identify as woman and my expression, that's just what it is. But the caveat to that is that trans women don't have to be burdened with misogyny. They don't have to be burdened with sexism, really, because trans women, I personally believe, and I could be wrong, and that's okay, I think trans women get to exist in this kind of like bubble where they are other women. Like, you're a woman, absolutely, that's how you identify. But again, the social construct around your trans identity is kind of like, you a woman, but you're not. Like, I gotta go over here and ask this woman to do this, a cisgender woman to do this, a trans woman does that. And I think that is what the hang up is. And I think that's why it's difficult for women like Just Hilarious or men or whomever to accept trans identity. But I think it's just that. I think it's a person's identity. And I think that where we go so wrong as human beings, and I think this is something that has been indoctrinated through us through white supremacy and racism and colonization, is this idea that me, an individual person, can tell somebody else what they are and what they are not? How can I tell you what you are? If you tell me I am a unicorn, if you tell me I transform into a mermaid at night, every night at 12 o'clock, I will say, I'm the type of person to say, for real, what? What color is your tail? What ocean did you go in? Do you go into lakes? Do you go to ocean? That's me. Because if in your mind, if you turn into a unicorn at night at 12, that's your reality. That's your reality. That's not mine. Because at 12 o'clock, when I flip the covers over, I got legs and I'm in a bed and I'm still me. So whatever is existing in your paradigm and in your reality, as long as it's not a harm to you, I don't care to tell you what you are and what you are not. But ironically, weirdly, as human beings, we feel as though that we have that privilege to tell somebody what they are and what they are not, as if that's going to do something, as if we feel like when we say what something is and what something is not, we are creating some sort of law or some sort of boundary with that. But the dangerous part about it is what we see, obviously, why racism exists, why sexism exists, is that when one person is really strongly on a belief, because as people, we are sheep. There's not a lot of independent, strong-minded thinking people. I think that percentage of people in the population who are there is very small. Most people are followers. I would say 80% of the population is follower, 20% of the population are leaders, right? And so when you have a certain ideology rooted in your mind, this is why cults are cultivated and people be living in cults and all that, because you have one person who thinks really strongly about something and they go out of their way. They go out of their way to push that agenda and then people follow along with it. So I personally feel like what allowed me to understand not just trans identity better, but queer identity, gender, sexuality was in college. So I did my first year at Shippensburg University. My first freshman semester class, it was required to take a sociology class. And after I took that class, I said, I'm going to be a sociologist. That's how much taking a sociology class opened my mind, because sociology is the study of people. And you get to see how different people live. You get to see how people exist. And it was very mind-blowing, right? And so that planted a seed for me. The next one I took was psychology. When I got to Temple University and I got into my junior year, when I got to start taking, what are they called? Electives, I think. And I took a human sexuality class. And that was the build up to me doing a deep dive into sexuality, gender, and all of that. After I took the human sexuality class, I took a class called Gay and Lesbian Lives. My professor was a trans man, and that blew my mind, because I had never been in a close proximity with a trans person. Like I said, I'm from North Philly. It's not uncommon to see a trans woman walking down Broad Street, or you on 29th and Lehigh, you see a trans woman. It's not uncommon to see a trans woman in a bar. It's not uncommon to see a trans woman shopping at Rainbow. Like, trans women are outside in Philly. It's not uncommon to see a man with a trans woman in Philly, right? But to be in close proximity to a trans person in this institutional stamp and like this structure, and that blew my mind. And I was so curious. I'm just like, so wait, you're trans, so you were born a woman, but now you're a man, and you did this, and you did that, and your partner is this, and you that. And what didn't happen though was judgment didn't come in my mind, bias didn't come in my mind, bigotry didn't come in my mind, genuine curiosity. And I learned about the umbrella. I learned about the difference between gender identity and gender expression and non-binary and just all of these things. And when I left that class, I felt so empowered, because I said, now I can understand people. And now when I'm out in the world and I'm having conversations and people tell me how they identify, I get it, I understand it. And I'm not sitting there wondering, well, how does that work? Because this has been explained to me, right? In a safe space, in a safe environment. And I'll go even further. In that class, there was a white man who was a veteran, who was a conservative, and he took that class. So I feel like when we are bigots It's because it's something about it that we don't want to accept, because it's something about ourselves that we don't accept. And it could be because we don't want to accept that people can be free in their choice and their identity, because I think outside of us knowing that we can choose our sexuality and we can choose our gender expression and we can choose all these things, I think even more on a very subdued, subtle level, we are all prisoners and we don't realize how much freedom we actually have. So after I took that class, I took a class of gender in the media class. That taught me about intersectionality. That was the first time I ever heard about intersectionality. I didn't even know intersectionality was a terminology, a theory, if you will, that was coined by a Black woman. So thankfully, going to college and putting myself in positions to take classes and courses outside of what things I knew or things that I was, kind of like maybe for like my regular major classes, and I did that, it opened my mind greatly to understand sexuality and identity. And so I personally, as a cisgender woman who identify as a woman, I do not feel no kind of way. Trans women don't make me feel no kind of way. Trans women actually, for me, and again, take it how you want to take it, I don't care how you take it. Trans women for me is a reminder of the sophistication, the amazement of what it is to exist in feminine energy, because trans women are the embodiment of feminine energy. Do you see trans women? Trans women are sickening. I'm talking about head to toe, sickening, gagging. And I'm not just talking about the ones that are fish. I'm talking about my butch queens. I'm talking about the girls, period. The confidence, the charisma, the daintiness, the aesthetic, the jewelry, the hair, the clothes, the camaraderie, the community that they exist in, the support that they have, right? Trans people they live in a completely different culture, community, subset in our just dynamic that we exist in. And I don't know if it's a jealousy thing, I don't know if it's an envy thing, I don't get it. But I'm so glad that the conversation was had, because every time I turn around, that's hilarious. Like, she'll be having a high, and then she'll say something it's completely ridiculous, and then she's back in the hot seat. Then she has to go back in the high, and she's back in the hot seat. And I wonder at what point in time is Just Hilarious going to sit down? Is she going to educate herself? Is she going to take a class? Is she going to have a conversation with maybe a sexuality coach or therapist or a professor or someone who has a PhD in human sexuality or gender or whatever, and she's going to educate herself about this? Because at the end of the day, trans people are not going anywhere. I don't care how much the government is trying to do with erase gay and lesbian and trans identity from media and from children's shows and from this and that, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So I think that when you see somebody like Just Hilarious who doubles down in their bigotry, it's actually disgusting, but it's something there. Like in that interview in the Breakfast Club with Lene, I forgot her last name, she was talking about something completely different, and then Just Hilarious butted in, like, with all of this animosity, all of this aggravation, all of this, like, yeah, and the ones who have uterus, only women have uterus. That was her, and it's just like, damn, little lady, damn, mama, we ain't even talking about that. What, like, and I love the correction, and then how she wanted to go on, and Lene said very, like, bluntly, but still respectfully, like, okay, like, you can believe what you want to believe. Anyway, like I was saying, and I think that's even something that we have to be, that's a stance that we have to have. I even feel like that with racism. I feel like I'm not obligated to keep trying to convince or sway you to believe a certain thing. You can stand strong in your bigotry, you can stand strong in your beliefs. Do that over there. We don't care about that. We don't care about you. We don't care about your opinion, right? But there's something deeper to her whole thing, because it's just like how upset she gets, how enraged she gets, how she just keeps feeling the need to say it over and over and over again. And I think what it is, and now I'm going to end the video on this, what I think it is an empowerment tactic that white people have the ability to feel empowered because white people benefit from systems, racism, right? Black people, we don't benefit from racism, right? Black people in our disadvantages, we cannot uphold systems like racism. But as Black people, what we can uphold is systems like homophobia and transphobia, right? So that gives us power. And I think she feels powerful in her opinion. She feels empowered in the stance that transphobia, trans identity is wrong, that trans women are not women, that it's this and this that. And I feel like it's the same equivalent to Black and Latino Trump supporters, right? Because we are disproportionate, marginalized groups who have been suffering since the inception of colonization and white supremacy, right? And I think that when you are on their side, you kind of finally want to feel empowered. And I think she is an example of that. Have a good day.